and welcome back to the What the Falk Sunderland review show. You join us after a frustrating, if largely unimportant, 0-0 draw at home to Bristol City, and we're going to be going over the talking points from the game, as we always do. These shows are not getting any easier until about the 10th minute, and then they kind of delve into stupidity. So if you just bear with us or fast forward, you'll get there. At the minute, it's just Dave joining me. Dave, how are you doing? You all right?
Yeah, very well, miss. Yeah, probably flat like the result, really. But yeah, we're doing okay, and I guess that's the story of Sunderland today. We did okay.
Yeah, we did okay. I said it was just Dave joining me, by the way. The cat apparently wants to join me as well because he doesn't like me being on a podcast. Brad might be joining us a little bit later on. He has a party, so I don't know what kind of mood he's going to pop in. If he even does pop in, if he doesn't, then it's just been like tender hooks the whole way through the podcast. But we've done this a few times this year, like 0-0s, and I think it's difficult to speak about 0-0 because largely there's not a great deal that happened, but there's a fair amount in this one. I think the first thing to probably look at, Dave, was it wasn't as bad as Monday. Few things are, and it was largely bright in parts. But ultimately, that's like 1 win in 10, and the season's really petering out. Where are you at with Sunderland at the minute?
Yeah, just wanting to get to the end of the season. It's awful, isn't it? I hate it. But at the same time, it's better than a relegation battle. So I'll take the small wins. Yeah, there's not really too much you can take from it, is there? And like you said, 0-0's one of them scores because, as Baraz will give me a shout nice and early, as Baraz will say it, we've kept a clean sheet. And I attested to it last week with a 0-0 draw and us keeping a clean sheet. At least we've gotten a point. Whereas previously, conceding silly goals cost us any points whatsoever. And the aim is if we're not going to get the win, we just at least don't get beat. So it's frustrating. It's probably boring, I'd say as well. But Bristol City's keeper's had a good game today, hasn't he? Let's be honest. And just kind of, yeah, all the negativity surrounding certain bits and aspects and recruitment, and they're all unfortunately going to rear their ugly head in games like this because two centre forwards still on the bench when we haven't scored, and so on and so forward. Yeah, on to next season. It'd be nice to get some kind of encouraging manager in who's going to give us something to look at, and hopefully the recruitment's a little bit better. I saw a little clip today of some ex-Spurs players wishing Son a happy 400 games, and Dele Alli popped up, and I was like,
Dele Alli.
I'd love it somewhere to come and get his head down. I think he's still a very good footballer, someone who needs reviving. It's something we've done for players in the past. I wouldn't mind him next year.
I've got an issue, Dave. I've got an issue with that. Is he over the age of 24?
Yeah, in that sense, we're ruined.
You could have Cristiano Ronaldo or whoever you want, Lionel Messi, available on a free transfer, desperate to come to Sunderland. If he's over the age of 24, it's not happening. I know what you mean, though. Like, I think, like the game today, it's been a couple of games this season where like the keepers have had good games, and you can say, we haven't had anyone put it in the sort of onion bag, and that's true. And you can also say the goalkeepers have had really good games a couple of times in these 0-0 draws, and that's also true. But I don't know. I can only be honest. Like, obviously, I absolutely love Sunderland, but I can only be honest. I'm struggling to care at the minute. And I don't mean that as in, like, I don't care. I mean, like, the apathy sort of set in because realistically, now it's going to happen to the end of the season. We'll win a couple, we'll draw a couple, we might get battered again. But I don't think, like, nothing's going anywhere in the next few weeks. It's just it doesn't really matter in many ways. Unless we won every single game towards the end of the season. And would that then even paper over cracks and make people think, maybe we weren't that bad all along in these past few months? I think It's been a really tough and trying few months, I think, which feels weird when you're sat in like 12th to 13th. There's some sides that would, for fans that would bite your hand off for that. But I think, if you're a Sunderland fan, you're listening to this, you probably understand all the things that have conspired to it. It's not just been just 13th. There's tons of things that have happened. Largely, on its own today was quite a decent performance. Obviously, we've got our best player back, which is really important. But still probably the same old issues in some ways, in the sense that we can't finish. I mean, I know Dak's at the underside of the bar and the keeper has made good saves, but a good striker gets your goal out and out, and that hasn't happened today. But I feel like we've gone over that one a million times. But Mike, angry Mike, angry Mike Dodds he was during the week, and honestly I couldn't take him serious for that. No offense, Mike, but he didn't look angry. And then I love Luke O'Nien, but Luke O'Nien calling him Doddsy afterwards, let Doddsy down. That's still riling me at the minute, unfortunately. That's just for me a big reason why we look so powder puff at the minute, and we've been so poor for about 10, 11 games, in most of those games anyway. But he said he wanted a response. Like, did he get one? Or, I mean, he said in his post-match press conference that he wasn't going to praise them for responding because that's the bare minimum. But can we praise them for responding? They were pretty good in the first half, but for the width of a post, Bradley Dack scores or Elshish scores or something.
Yeah, it's a response, but I don't suppose it was really hard to respond on Monday, was it? It's one of them. I think the clean sheet is something to hold on to. Be interesting to know how many of them we've had this season, and we all know that I'd rather score 4 at the other end and concede 3. So it's a bit exciting for not necessarily the neutral, but for us lot really.
It's better for the podcast because none of those you can probably tell they're really tough, especially at this point of the season where, like, we couldn't even do a Bristol City podcast on the opposite side because it means bugger all of them as well. You just keep us good, isn't he?
Yeah, keep us done well. There's just not much to go at. There's really not much to go at, and that's awful. But you've got to take the small victories. At least we haven't lost 5-1 at home again, which it is very much small mercies, isn't it? But it's something to build on. I'd love to tell you that I knew who we had next game, if I'm honest, but I'd be absolutely lying. It's absolutely the pinnacle of apathy at its finest, unfortunately. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I think it is largely apathy. So let's try and find some positives. Clean sheet, that tick. Bowers gonna love that. Jack Clark being back, I do think he made a difference, which of course he did, because our game plan for ages has been pass the ball to Jack Clark, let him run at teams, and it tends to work quite often. But I don't know why I went so high in my pitch there, but good to have Clarky back. I mean, are you excited to see Jack for the next sort of 5, 6 weeks, whatever it may be, before we sell him for like 10 million and buy 17 Timothy Pembele's in the summer? I'm sorry if this is coming across negative. I just can't be bothered at the minute. So it's getting to the comedy point. We're getting to that 10-minute stage. The comedy point's coming in.
It's the harsh reality that we're at, isn't it? I can't see a world in which he does get here or does stay here next season. I can't see a world where that happens, and that's sad. So I guess from a personal point of view for Jack, he's got the next couple of weeks to build up his fitness ready for pre-season with whoever he's at. If people want to, I mean, to be honest, I do like going over all things actually, but I think Graham sounds like he's suffering more than me today, to be fair. So we'll just we'll put that one out there.
I'm struggling today, mate. I'm not going to lie. Like, when I thought about having to do it, I was like, oh no, what am I going to talk about? Things. Someone said in one of the, it's not even a question. They said, if I say Dodsey in the podcast one more time, I swear. Swear what? What are you going to do? I've said it twice now. So, suck it up, mate. Sorry. I don't like the term dodgy either, but I've said it 3 times now. So there's your hat trick. So yeah, he got a response. He got a response. Clarkie's back. That's going to be great for 5 weeks. Cannot wait for 17 Timothy Pembele's to come in the summer. I think this is probably something we should discuss. And it's frustrating because we were largely quite good today in big spells, but I think it's just this culmination of the way that everything's gone since January. And I want to be a bit more positives, but I think that's 5 points from a possible 30, give or take. And it's only 2 goals scored at home since Dodsey's taken the interim job. I think what the underlying apathy is for me and the underlying concern is not so much what's happening right now or what's happening towards the end of the season. As positive and as happy as I felt about this season because of what happened last season, I feel like the opposite. You said before, I just want to get to the end of the season. The end of the season really worries me. At the minute, I'm kind of like, it doesn't really matter at the minute what happens because we can't go down, we can't go up. We're just having that boring end of the season, which we probably haven't had for about 15 years. But I have a real concern that, all of these really glaring issues, the lack of striker, the lack of defensive midfielder, the players being too young, not enough experience, all the off-field stuff. I have a real genuine concern that we're not going to see a summer that fixes all of it. I'm not even sure if the summer's enough time in terms of recruitment to do that. I don't know if I'm just falling too deep here, to be honest, but how worried are you for the outlook next season? I mean, obviously that can change, things can happen, but there is a part of me that's rankling where I'm going, do I want to just get the end of the season? Because at the minute I can just kind of like give or take what happens in some ways, but next season could be really, if things aren't sorted, it's not going to be great.
Yeah, this is one of them where if you try to be balanced and you look at things, you can only go off historically to form your opinions. And we all know, looking back now, that last year wasn't fantastic in terms of recruitment, in terms of momentum, which we probably should have been carrying on a little bit. You've almost got to you've got to address quite a few things now. Position wise, yes, centre forward experience. They're all buzzwords which we've been kicking around with for quite a while. But of course, now you've also got to. So last year we had poor home form. We've probably addressed that slightly this year, but the away form went absolutely out the window. So that needs addressing again. I think you've got to be looking at a consistency. We have to be getting through 5-game periods with, at very worst, 3 wins, 1 draw, 1 defeat. There's just so much to address. And that's going to come from the managerial appointment first and foremost. I really think we have to do something which is going to inspire a lot of fans. Hence the reason for me not wanting Paul Heckenbottom. I just think there's more exciting people out there for the project. And no, before anyone starts having a go, I don't think Roy Keane and I don't think Big Sam or anyone like that. I am up for a new style appointment. I am up for someone who's going to be the head coach and
what
give
about
us like
a combination of the two in like a face-off style way where you didn't really know which one was which? Is it Nick Cage? Is it John Travolta? Is it Sam Allardyce? Is it Roy Keane? Have they switched faces? Is their body different? What about that kind of appointment? What about a scientific experiment of an appointment, like a literal one?
almost like Jeff Goldblum in The Fly.
Oh,
Just put them in a machine and see what happens. I'm up for it. I'm absolutely up for it.
Get in there, but you better stay under the age of 24. Brad has joined us. Brad, you've met us at a really good point because we've lost it. We've completely lost it. Uh, how was how was today for you? Because we've already kind of said that it was like, do you know? Remember Keelan and Wiseman say when he used to say "just a man"? This was just a game.
Yeah. Well, I did join when you were talking about Jeff Goldblum. I thought I was walking into a Jurassic Park best of type podcast.
We're
Uh,
not allowed anything Jurassic at Sunderland because nothing would be young enough to get in the first team squad.
Correct. Thoughts today, it was better, but it couldn't been any worse, really, could it? We dominated the game, but we came to see that how many times, or even when we were playing well last season, there was games where we just absolutely dominated. And at times today, I did keep saying, I think they're going to nick one. I just had that feel where they created absolutely nought. But that old elephant in the room, isn't it? It's pointless even talking about it. It's just a lack of a striker. But look, it's a positive that we created a lot more chances today. Hit the woodwork a couple of times. But yeah, it's just season's over, isn't it? Yeah, if there was ever a game just to show that teams have got nothing to play for, it was probably today. Because that could have either been 0-0 or 4-all. And that's what I predicted. Like I was talking to people this morning, oh, Archie's football. I said it's either going to be a boring 0-0 or it could end up like 4, like all last season. Unfortunately, it was 0-0. But yeah, I mean, if we had something to play for, I'd still say there was plenty of positives there to take forward. But it's just, I do worry that the season's coming to an end and we've got 5 games left with Jack Clark. I don't know how the hell we're going to survive without him.
I was, we were just talking about that, and it just feels like we might get decent money, but as it stands, we'll get 17 Timothy Pembele's in, and that doesn't excite me at all. There was a few players returning today, Clark being one of them, which we've touched on. Alessi coming back in as well. But was there anyone that like stood out for you? Because I felt like today was like a list of, if I was doing play ratings for the Sunderland Echo or something like that, I would have probably just gone 7 across the board and a couple of 6s chucked in sporadically. Was there anyone that like stuck out for you? It was just a pretty decent performance without the finishing touch, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, there wasn't really any outstanding players. I thought, I mean, it's just natural now. Jack Clark was good. You see all through the first half, that's what we're looking for, and he looked like our most dangerous player, but that's because he is. Towards the end, he was flagging. You could see he went down, and everyone held their breath, thinking, "Oh, fuck, he's injured again." But he was just knackered, and that comes with having 4 to 6 weeks without a game. It's a funny one with Chris Rigg because I thought at times he was actually, I don't know how to put it because he's only 16. He's only 4 years older than Archie. You can see he's got something about him. He's got a bit of class, but he's very raw. But he's not the type of raw when it was like your Duncan Watmores and like I don't know, Lahadji and you know, like that type of where they just run on like headless chicken. You can see there's actually a player there. So I would like to see him probably just have a run to the end of the season now, get some good minutes into him, and look, he'll go into next season with, if he plays from now until the end, maybe 15, 20 games in, and Mr. Speaking will come out and say he's one of the most experienced in the squad. But yeah, I mean, there wasn't that many standouts. There really wasn't. Trey Hume, steady. Everyone was just like a nice, steady Ballard and O'Nien. They were putting some good blocks in. That's what you want from your defenders. I think Roberts looked back to being a bit better when he came on. But again, that's you're trying to compare them to a standard from Monday, and it's pretty much impossible because that was as bad as it gets. But yeah, I mean, there was enough there for me to say comfortable with that performance. A lot to go on. I mean, the one positive I will say is I don't think really anyone except for Helder had a bad game. Everyone was just steady.
And even discussed Leo Hielda. I'm sorry, like I don't want to batter anyone. I feel bad doing that, but I can't. I just cannot get into that. One one thing that dawned on me a bit today was Aiye obviously came back. I'm a real big fan of Aiye. I really like him, to be honest. I think he's probably a slightly better left back than he is centre half. But he's someone that's been out for a really long time, outside of a few games in sort of January time, Brad, which he'd been out for a long time before that as well. I kind of forget in some ways that Dennis Serkin's not playing because he's been out for so long, and he posted on Instagram today and I remembered it. Um, the criticism's been justified of the team, the performances, and kind of what went on. But how much have we missed the likes of like Aiye and Dennis Serkin and stuff like that? I mean, think we kind of forget how good those players were for us last year, especially in Serkin's case. Um, we do miss them, don't we? I suppose that is a positive that hopefully those will both be back in contention next year, and they're both very, very good defenders that improve our side.
Yeah, definitely. I've really rated Aiye since he signed for us. I think he's a tremendous defender. He's good. He's like a good stature, and he's got good physique. And that's what you'd like to see, because if we are going to adopt this whole, we can go from a back four to a back three. He's ideal. He's the perfect one you put in at left. Cirkin, I would say you put maybe switching more to a wing back. I'd prefer, because he's better going forward. But yeah, just use these games now just to get Angelisi's fitness back up. We don't need to rush him back if he's feeling anything, like we've done last season against Luton and ultimately lost him for the majority of this season. But yeah, I'm a big fan of him. Who else? Serkin, not far away. Won't see him this season, but it is a positive. We'll go into next season with him.
Corey Evans, huge miss. Like, not just
Yeah,
because he's so brilliant, there's just nothing like him and hasn't been for
yeah.
14, 15 months.
It's the experience, and like I know it's not to the same level of what we were looking for, but when Dak came on today, you could see that there was a bit of an experienced head on there with them. You could see he was talking, trying to talk people through the game. And even if we'd have had him for 10, 15 games more, because he started to put a few games together before he got injured both times, we might have had something a little bit extra in there, just like you say, experience. Just a bit frustrating that they're coming back when there's now to play for, but it's all built on next season, isn't it?
One thing we should probably touch on before going to listeners' questions, ask you and Dave, because I'm aware that this podcast has been me asking Dave questions, then me asking Brad questions. So I'll ask both, if possible. Abdullah Bar completely dropped from the squad today. Really interesting in the sense that I didn't really think there's nothing that was necessarily worse about Abdullah Bar than any other player on Monday, and for him to be dropped completely for, like, look, a player didn't play on Monday in Burstow, but a player's not even ours. I found it a bit odd, and I found the comments afterwards a bit odd. Thoughts on that one, Brad? Bar being dropped completely after playing relatively most of the season in the first 11.
Yeah, a bit of a funny one, that, because I think everyone was saying, oh, there's the dog going mad. Everyone was saying that Bar, he played okay against Cardiff, and then he's just completely been frozen out. This dog.
We can't hear him, but you can hear my bloody cat. You can hear me cat.
Yeah, it's a funny one with Bar, mainly because he's not he's not the most consistent player, but when he's on it, he's actually, I would class him as a game changer. I think he's actually quite good, but it's just that consistency. And like I say, there's nothing to play for. And with these games, like next 5 or 6 games, if these are going to be the future of who we're wanting to step up, these are where you need to use them. And even like, I know he was dropped out of the squad completely, but what's the fucking point in putting Mason Burstow in there? There is no point. There's nothing left to play for. He's useless. Even if Bar's a squad player, then he comes on and gets the last 20 minutes. It's something.
I'd rather have Tommy Watson. I'd rather have Tommy Watson on the bench.
It's just poor management. It is very poor management over the last few weeks. And that's going to shoot his confidence somewhat rotten as well. Because even when he comes back in and says, well, I wasn't good enough before, and so why would I now? Because you've got another couple of injuries, or I don't know. It's just from the top. I'm not a fan at the minute.
And I think he's quite obviously a confidence player as well. But yeah, look, I quite like Mike Dodds as a person, I think he comes across really well. I think he is probably trying his best, but God, he's been exposed with a lot of different things. Dave, what are your thoughts on that? I feel like we're really like I'm really struggling for questions at the minute, but Abdullah Bar being dropped completely from the squad did seem a bit odd. Is there something more to that, do you think, Dave, potentially? Falling out or something?
Yeah, I suppose that could be, couldn't there? Maybe Dodds trying to give him some form of rocket up the arse, so to speak, and maybe he's, you know, yeah, it's strange, but we just never know the ins and outs of everything, do we? So at the point of speculating, he is Mr. Inconsistent Bar, isn't he? He seems to do one good thing and then he seems to do five bad things. Excuse me.
That's just our team at the minute, though. And I think it just comes down to
that's
what
what
we've
you get
got.
from a lack of experience, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
100%.
So yeah, they've got to make these mistakes, whether it's on the field, off the field, in order to develop and grow as players, I suppose. And hopefully all's all right, because we have seen enough of him to think that we will have a half decent player when we, one, work out his position, and two, once he matures a little bit, I think.
He offers something. I'm not going to say he's the next coming of like Messi, but like, I mean, his goals return, his assist return's been all right. I certainly wouldn't have taken him completely out of the squad. I found that a bit of an odd one, especially at this time of the season. There's no real point in making. I don't know. I'm talking. This is the worst podcast we've ever recorded. I just want to put that out there. So we're going to go straight to listeners' questions. I can't remember if you were. I think this was both of us, so I can throw this question at you and myself. Is mine automatic? Oh, yeah, prediction of automatic promotion the worst prediction you've or I've ever done?
Absolutely.
I don't think it's even close to my worst prediction.
Yeah. I'm struggling to back myself with any kind of defence whatsoever.
I think your worst prediction came in the same podcast, and it was that Aiye was going to score 15 goals. He may end the season without even scoring fucking one.
I do believe, as a disclaimer, I did put at the end of that, if he gets the right type of service. So that's my get out with that one. But yeah,
makes it no better.
No, it doesn't. Absolutely, what is going on? Oh God, can't wait for pre-season.
But I think, like we're laughing about it and stuff like that, and I think even at the time when I felt like when I made the prediction in the preview show that we'd finish second at the start of the season, I knew I was overreaching a little bit. But it kind of probably shows you how positive I felt about the end of last season, that we seem to have like a unit, enough experience, enough young talent, and the likes of Ross Stewart, what I thought would have been coming back from injury, a good striker, maybe bringing in the likes of like Sims, maybe one of the younger strikers could have added to that kind of thing at the time. It shows you that when you see something you can buy into and something that you truly believe in, be that the model of how you sign players that are on the pitch, the manager and the way that he speaks, whichever way it may be, your confidence can really rocket as a fan. And that is what you call momentum, I guess. And that prediction came from how much I really enjoyed last season and how much I kind of believed in what Mowbray was doing at the time, how the team were responding to his methods and his performance. The amount of good young players we had mixed with the likes of Pritchard doing really, really well, Patrick Roberts doing really well, Dan Neil sort of emerging, Danny Bart being player of the year at the back. A lot of it just seemed to align, and the mood around the club seemed really good. Now, that's obviously not worked out in the way that it has due to recruitment and all sorts of a bag of things that we've done multiple podcasts on. And my worry is a little bit that the lack of momentum that this season's probably going to end in could cause a problem moving forward, because positive momentum is a lot harder to maintain. Negative momentum it really snowballs. And that's probably one of my biggest concerns. But this is my kind of roundabout way of saying yeah, it probably actually is the worst prediction I've ever made, truth be told, and I should have just shut my mouth and never make a prediction ever again. But you've listened to the show for 3-4 years. People should know that I'm not very good at predictions. This is a great question, and I don't think the person realizes how good this question is, but this is where we're going to end on it. Why am I a Sunderland fan? Hope someone can answer this, as I genuinely don't know anymore. I can answer this perfectly, no problem. I'll let Dave go first. I can't answer this person's personal situation and tell him why he necessarily supports something. I assume it's family or something. But there's a reason why I think the majority of us continue to do this. But Dave, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, whatever your personal circumstances are, there's always a massive pull with Sunderland Football Club. It's as simple as that. And whether it's through family, whether it's through friends, whether it's you went once to an away game and you just caught the bug, that's exactly what happens. You catch the bug, and then after that, it's the hope that kills you, unfortunately, because there is always just that hope that one year we have a bit of a cup run, or we're in the Premier League and we end up with a new Quinn and Phillips, or dare I say, before that, it's hard to let go. It's hard to let go once it gets hold of you. And for every bad time, there's always a very good time as well. And that comes from standing next to someone at the match, whether it's something that happens on the field. I think something that, for as much as we get the piss took out was for crying on Netflix, I think it encapsulates what we're all about. The people are the football club, and that'll never change. No matter whether it's Christian Speakman, whether it's somebody else, that will never change who we are and what it means to us. And yeah, I'm not sure if it's answered the question, but I think everyone will probably kind of relate to that a little bit.
Yeah, I think mine's really similar. Like, I don't necessarily know if it's healthy, and there's probably like a psychoanalysis, a psychodrama that needs to go probably into this, which is I haven't got time for, and no one wants to listen to me doing that. But I think just my first game was Rocket Park '93, and I think why am I still going sort of 34, 35 years later? Why do I spend so much time and then effort doing this podcast and all this kind of stuff, and then Twitter and ready to go and all that kind of stuff? I think because I like at the core, no matter who's in charge of something, that it's part of me and part of what I believe in. I believe we're a community club. I believe that we're a club that very much belongs to the people. I believe that in almost every aspect, that no matter how the team's doing on the pitch, the fans and the people that are sort of at the ground on match day, are watching from home, from wherever it is in the world, have a common bond that we're not in it necessarily for the glory, that we're in it for glory, hopefully, but it's all about just having a feeling of familiarity, a feeling of community, a feeling of bonding. And I think my favorite thing about Sunderland probably, or the people of Sunderland, or the Sunderland fans, if you prefer, is that I can stand next to someone who can have a completely opposite, different opinion. We'll both wear our hearts on our sleeve. We'll both argue about a kingdom come. Then we can go for a pint, because that common bond that bonds us together is our football club. And I like that. I really like that. Everyone in that ground can have a completely different opinion, but at their heart, they're something through and through. And that makes me feel part of something a lot bigger. And that makes me feel, for a Saturday or a Sunday or whatever day it may be, or when we're doing a podcast, that I've got someone who understands why I love this daft thing as much as they do. And I think that's just something that's really nice.
I think if in recent memory, I say recent memory, a few years ago now, but if you are looking for, excuse me, an understanding of what this football club means, if you can get a professional footballer, and of course he had special circumstances with Bradley, but if you can get a footballer to score a goal against our most fiercest rivals and then come off the pitch crying after he has played, geez, I wouldn't even like to say it, but it must be over 600 games before he's played that game.
World Cups, Euros, pinnacle of his career.
Like the absolute biggest platform. If you can get somebody who's doing it as a job, and of course there's a lot of them that care more than just a job, but if he can walk off the pitch after feeling the emotion within a crowd, I think that sums up absolutely everything you need to know.
Yeah, it does. Why do you support Sunderland? To answer that question, because it's not better than Sunderland even when we're shite. And that's why we all do it, I think. And hopefully it's ended that in a really nice, positive way. Dave, I don't know. I think it's maybe the worst podcast we've ever done, but fuck it. It's fine, isn't it? Thanks for listening, everyone.
It's that podcast was like the version of a 0-0 draw.
I think it's up there with my Sunderland versus Northampton Town preview podcast during the pandemic on the last day of the season. So it's up there with the worst one. But Dave, thanks for doing the worst podcast in the world ever with me. Thanks.
Wouldn't change it for the world. All the best, mate.
Sounds like I've had whiskey. I haven't, like.